Hello and welcome to another video from Indzara.com. This is the first video in a series of videos where we will be building this recruitment tracker Excel template step by step. So we'll start with a blank template and then we'll be building every component of this recruitment tracker template from start to finish. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to it now so that you'll get notified of future videos. And if you like the Excel templates and Excel videos on this channel, please share with your friends. So before we begin building this template, I just want to provide an overview of the different components of this template. This template is designed to track recruiting of a specific job or a position. So for example, we are recruiting for this job title, Senior Analyst Business Intelligence, and the recruiter name is Mr. Recruiter. The job was posted on February 1st, and the candidates have to go through these different stages before they are hired. So the template will help us track all the applications to this job and then the different stages through which those applications go. And then if the application is declined, we can put a reason. And then all of this will be automatically calculated. How many applications, how long did it take to hire? What's the active pipeline? Meaning how many applications are currently being processed without a decision being taken yet. And then also a funnel which shows the flow of applications through each stage. And finally, the top decline reason. So why did we decline those applications? What are the reasons that are the top? So we're going to be building all of this step by step from scratch. In this first part of this video series, we will focus on setting up the basic inputs, setting up the table, and also calculating the number of application stuff. In future videos, we will build the active pipeline chart, the recruitment funnel chart, and the top decline reasons table. So we'll build these in future videos. Having said that, let's start building. So I have a blank workbook. I have not put anything in this. So while we are building, please remember to save your file regularly so that you don't lose anything that you built. So we'll start by sectioning out a portion at the top of the sheet so that it can be used for our metrics and inputs, whereas the table will be below. So I'm just going to use a standard color here, and then so that is the area where we are going to be doing some summary and then inputs and everything. Here is where we are going to enter the table where we will store the application information. Okay, so let's start with just typing in the name of the template. Okay, change the font so that it's clearly visible, and we'll just make it big enough. And then we're going to put job title. And then the job title will be entered here. So you can choose to merge if you like, and this would allow you to type in the job title if it is long. Okay, so now we have the name, and if you want to just make it appear like an input cell, so you can put a border. So I'm just going to do a white border. Maybe I'll just do white color outline. So then it'll look like that. So in this video series, I'm not going to focus too much on the formatting. I'm going to only focus on the functionality and the formulas. So you are welcome to choose any formatting that you prefer. So maybe we'll merge it again, and then we'll type the name of the recruiter. So you can use this template and make a copy of this file and use it for every other job that you have, so that each file is for one job. So one thing you can do is to select this format and hit Format Painter, and then click on this so that that formatting is copied over. Okay, now the other input is job posted date. And we will again do this. So you can copy and paste it if you want. And then we'll put in the date when we started this job or posted the job. And I like to change the date formatting, usually to custom, because I know that many of you may be from country or language which uses a different date format. So I like to read it this way so that it's clear that it's the 1st February 2019. Okay, so now the basic inputs are there. Now what we're going to do is to define the stages through which our job recruitment process go through. So I'm going to just type in stages, and then we will define the stages here. I'm going to keep it simple and say I have 4 stages. And in these 4 stages, I'm going to name them this way, but in your case, if you have more than or less than 4 stages, or your names may be different, so you're welcome to modify this however you would like. And then what we're going to do is to now start building the table of applications. So I can probably put something like enter applicants info below, and this is where we are going to have the table. And so to create a table, let's just write the name, application date. So the reason why I'm saying this is application date is because that is the first stage. If you have named the stage 1 differently, then you will change the name of this column. What I'm typing now is basically the table, and we need a header for the table. So that's what we did. So once I do the 2 names, let's say, for example, I select these 4 cells, hit Control T, click on My Table Has Headers, because you have already created the header. And now it's going to change like this, and it is now an Excel table. So once you click inside an Excel table, you will see the design come up, and then you can choose any of these designs. I like this row usually, so I'm gonna just maybe do this. Now what we're going to do is to type in the date. So let's keep it short and DT for date. Phone date, interview date, offer date, and then, so these are the 4 stages. So if you have more than 4 stages, you could create stage 5, stage 6, and everything else as you need. Now I'm going to keep it to 4, but you're welcome to add more columns here. As many stages you have, that many columns you need to add to store the dates. So let's select them, double click so that they become wide enough. We can see the entire name. The next, after your stage columns, we need a status. So status is meant to capture if you're still working on that application or have you finished taking a decision. So if you have decided not to move forward with that candidate, then you would enter closed. We'll talk more about that soon, but that's the purpose of the status column. The next column is decline reason. This is if your application has been denied or declined, then you would enter the date here. Otherwise, you can leave it empty. Then I have a comments column so that you can type in if you want any notes about that specific application, then you can use this column. You can add more columns to store other information about that application or the applicant. Each row here will be representing a single application or an applicant who submitted their resume or an application to the job that you are hiring. So once you entered all those columns, finally I will enter a calculated column called stage. I use this column to define or calculate which stage is the specific application in. Since this is going to be a formula, I would like to color them differently so that it's very obvious that it is a calculated field. Okay, there we go. Now we are ready to enter some information in here. So for example, I'm just going to keep it very simple. I'll call the first application 1, or applicant name is 1. And then the date when this application was filed or submitted to you as a recruiter was, let's say, February 1st. And then the date when you did the phone screen was February 5th. And then the date when you interviewed that person, let's say, was February 8th. And then the date you have not selected them to provide an offer to this candidate. Instead, you decided to not move forward with that candidate. So you would put in closed. The decline reason, so you can probably say, okay, I declined them because, you know, the technical qualifications were not met, or not satisfactory. So then you can put the reason here. In these two columns, you can put them under data validation or drop down menu. So for example, I'll just choose this. So now what happens is that this column will expect either closed or empty. But if I type something else like open, it'll give me an error. This is just a data validation to improve the quality of the data and to prevent incorrect values to be typed in, because we will be using this in a formula later. So it's very important that this column has the correct input. So let's say closed is the allowed value, and decline reason. Similarly, you can create a list of reasons and then put them in here. I'm not going to do this for this part of the video, but we have other videos I have posted which talk about how to do drop-down menus of list of values. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is to change these dates to the format that we prefer. So I will select these 4 values, and then I will go in and then say date. I'll do DD, MMM, YYY. Okay, so now in order to enter the next application, I'll just type in applicant 2, and then you will enter the dates for that specific application. I'm going to just go and quickly copy the data that I already have from another worksheet. And if you're also copying information, so one thing I would recommend is after you copy, so I've copied it from my other screen, and now when coming in to paste, it's important that you right click inside the table and then choose paste values. So this is the option to choose enter paste values. So now it has pasted the information. It is very important that you do paste values so that you don't bring over any formatting or formulas or other things from the other worksheet. We want this file to be independent and clean. So then I'm going to keep saving it. So I've saved it again. So now we have a few applications, and we have taken decision on certain applications. Like anything which we say closed means we have already taken a decision to not to move forward with that candidate. However, for example, application 8 or application 3, we haven't taken the decision yet, meaning we are waiting for the applicant to respond, or we are still deciding whether to move forward with that candidate to the next stage or not. So that is what it means. When the status is empty, that means you have not taken a decision. If the status is closed, that means you have taken a decision to not move forward. So there's one more possibility, which is you choosing a candidate to fill the job. That is the hired candidate. So we will have to store the information on hired candidate somewhere. So for example, I will use this and say, if you have hired, choose the applicant here, enter that applicant here. So for that, what I'm going to do is to select these values and then go to formulas, name manager, new, and then say, this is going to be my L underscore applications, L underscore APPS. So that will refer to the name of applicants. Okay, there we did it. And now what we're going to do is to go to this cell right next to hired, and we will implement a drop-down list. Data validation, list, press F3 and it'll show the different names we have, and the only one we have created so far is this. So now once you have hired a person or decided to hire a person, you can just say, okay, I'm going to hire this person. So that is how you can record that you have hired a specific candidate for the job. Okay, so now let's see if we can just highlight that again. Okay, so now we have done this. So the couple of things missing are we have to put in the calculation here for stages. And so the way we do it in this formula, it's going to be a nested if set of nested if functions. So if the offer date, click on the offer date cell in the same row, and it'll look like this because we have created a table. And offer date is greater than 0. That means you have populated with something. Then the stage is offer, right? So then go to this cell because that's the last stage. I have 4 stages, but if you have built it with more, then you will probably choose let's say you have 6 stages, then you will probably choose the 6th stage now, because I have 4. So I'm starting with 4th. So I will use the name here, but I have to lock the cell. So I put $C $10, comma, if this cell is greater than 0, then stage is this. If this is greater than 0, then it is C8. And then if this is greater than 0, okay, now if none of this is true, then we put nothing, and then we close, 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 so that all the ifs that we opened are closed. So the way the formula works is that it basically looks for, from the last possible stage, checks for if a date is entered. If a date is entered, then it will assume that is the stage in which that specific application is in currently. So for example, this application, there is an offer date, which means we have given an offer to the applicant. That means the stage of that application is offer. However, this application, the interview was done on 5th February and it's been closed. So the last stage it was in, we call it interview. So this is how we can calculate this. Now to wrap up this first part of this video series, we're going to calculate how many applications. So we'll write applications. So we're going to count the number of applications we have. And then we also need to calculate how many days it's been to hire. Okay. So for count of number of applications, we'll just do a count A, and then we'll do L_apps. So if you remember, we actually said L_apps is the list of names. So we're going to just count how many values are present in that list. That'll be 13. So that's our first metric. To calculate the number of days to hire, so for example, we could do today minus the job posted date, lock it, plus 1. It is using a date format, so we would want to change that to general, then do this. So how long has it been since the day? So this works as long as you have not hired yet. For example, once you hire, this clock should stop. We shouldn't be counting the days to hire after you have hired. So we need a hired date. So in order to do that, we'll just hired date. And this is where you would record if whenever you have hired. So let's say, for example, I want to choose March 1st as the hired date. Okay, so now what we will do here in this formula is if the hired date value is greater than 0, which means it has been hired, then we actually would not use, we'll actually use hire date minus job posted date plus 1. Otherwise, we will compare with today. So if the candidate has been hired, then we want to use the hired date minus job posted date plus 1. If it's not hired yet, then we use today minus job posted date plus 1. So we'll close that. So it'll say 29 days if we finished hiring on March 1st. Let's say if we haven't hired, so we'll take this out, we haven't hired yet. That means it has already taken 38 days and we have not hired. So one thing we could do is to add a has hiring finished or not condition. So if hired application is nothing, this name is nothing, so which means we have not hired anybody, then we would say hiring, otherwise we would say hired. So we'll make it a little bit bigger. So that is the status. So we're still hiring, and once you finish hiring, then you will just choose, let's say this, then it'll say hired, and then if you put in the date of hire, then it'll say 29 days to hire. So this is how it is going to work. So if I remove it, it's going to be 38. And we'll change the date format here as well. There we go. Okay, so now this completes the first portion of our video. So what we have done here so far is we have provided some input so we can store some information about the job, and then we have defined the stages. We have entered a table where we can store all the applicants' information. We have calculated a stage, which will come in handy in future videos where we will do some charts based on the stage. We have also calculated the number of applications, hired days to hire metric. We also have a simple calculation which says, has the hiring finished or is it still being done? And then we can also store the date when the hiring was done and the applicant that we hired for this job. So we completed all this. In the next video, we will do an active pipeline chart, and then we will do recruitment funnel and also the top decline reasons table. So if you have any questions about what we have discussed so far, post your questions in the comment section below, and also your feedback on whether you find this such video tutorials helpful or not. I look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much for watching.